I started with West Douglas County Fire Protection District as a firefighter in 1980, and then I went into dispatching, and now I'm their office manager. In the year 2000, 9 women got together at Station 2, which is right at the mouth of Jar Canyon, and we had a meeting because we realized a lot of our elderly people were dying, and we needed to get the histories that they had so they wouldn't be lost forever.
So I came to one of the meetings and I got hooked on it. And it's a nice group of people.
My husband's been connected with the board of directors of the fire department for some time, and I've helped out as tech support for Barbara Machan. And then she sort of dragged me into to being interested about the history when she was trying to get a group together. So I've been with her since whenever the beginning was.
I was at a party at an art opening at Gabriel's, and I met Mary Cornish, who is one of our longtime residents, and was talking to her about local history, and Mary said, "Oh, I know who you need to talk to. I'll give your name to Barbara Machan," and I haven't had a free moment since.
We didn't have a name at that point. We were not incorporated. It took us probably about a year to get the formal papers in.
In order to raise money, we needed to be a not-for-profit so that people could legitimately donate to us.
And then it became the Sedalia Historic Firehouse Museum. But at first it was just a loose group of people who were interested in history and protecting and preserving it. Word of mouth in this community travels very fast. We're a very small area, so as we would talk to people, they'd say, "Oh, I've got something you might be able to use," or "My grandmother had this." And so the community really supported us from the very beginning. We were collecting an awful lot of things in files that we thought would be of interest to the community. So again, we went to West Douglas County Fire Protection District's Board of Directors and said, "Can we use the front part of your office?" And they said yes.
A new building wasn't always in our plans, but as we grew, we got more and more crowded.
About 2002, 2003, we talked about maybe getting a little log cabin that we could put up on this property. And we talked about a lot of things, and then Barbara came in one day and said, "I just bought a house for $1."
Oh, Lord.
Gary Sutton had a 2-story Victorian cottage that I knew in the past he had tried to either rent or sell. I went over and talked to him, and he said he would sell the cottage to us for $1.
Well, sure, why not? It's just $1.
We knew we could scrounge up $1, but we didn't have a place to put it. So we talked to West Douglas County Fire Protection District again, and they said, you know, we need to clear some property. The west end of their property ended at what was Victor Street at one time. So they assigned me the chore of clearing the property and getting the deed. And we had high hopes of moving the house there. Well, when I talked to IREA, they came down and looked at it because they have lines. And he said, no, they could not move those lines. He said those were untouchable. So we went back to the drawing board, and the county planning department sent some planners out. And they said, well, instead of putting it on that end of the property, why not put it on the east end of the property?
Barbara would come to the meetings and give out 20 and 30 pages of notes on what she had taken, estimates of various things, letters from various people about different aspects of it. And we would sort of glance at it and say, oh gee, that's a lot of work.
About that time, we were serious. You know, we really had to decide what to do and if we could do this. And I think honestly, no one but Barbara really thought we could do it.
We underestimated Barbara, as usual.
She was the most enthusiastic from the beginning, but she knew she couldn't do it alone. And we were a little more skeptical. And we had several meetings where there were real decision points. Do we go ahead or don't we?
It was pretty iffy because we didn't know how much this was going to cost us, and we didn't have the money.
And it took 2 years before we really got moving with the whole thing, but I think in large part it's because the county kept putting up roadblocks to the point that we got mad.
I got a letter back saying you need to discontinue this project because of, you know, they listed a whole lot of reasons.
They kept saying you can't do it for this reason and that reason, and we would solve those problems, and the next week it was a different group of reasons.
We had to go through CDOT to make sure that they would never enlarge the road. We're too close to the septic tank. The water board wanted $8,000 to make the connection.
She finally was ready to turn in the towel, and I said, no. Make them say you can't do it. And then we'll go to the next step, and we'll make them say no, and then we'll go to the commissioners. So at least we've gone all the way.
The turning point was really when the commissioners got involved and decided that this project would be a good thing for Sedalia and that they would support it and they would sort of nurse its way through the planning department and things.
We have regulations that are written for a different kind of place, and we're working now to create regulations and processes that go with this place and really represent what this place is and what these people want to be and what they want their town to be.
In addition, they were very generous with grants from the Philip S. Miller Foundation. They gave us both outright grants for construction and matching grants where we had to raise a like amount from the community. And this has been a community project from the very beginning.
We're really working at planning and engineering to kind of change our relationship with the residents of the town and find ways to help them get done what they want to get done, as opposed to pointing out to them what possible things might not allow them to do what they want to do. So it's really been about changing the relationship between county government and the town's residents and business people.
Quite frankly, we were very naive. When we first submitted the plans to the county, we had to give them a rough estimate of how much it would cost for new windows, a new roof, everything that needed to be restored. And so it was a very cold, wet, rainy day. We got on the phone, let our fingers do the walking, and we got some really bad information because it ended up costing us 10 times more than what we thought it was going to cost.
We actually pulled in a couple more people to volunteer and work on grant writing.
And bake sales, and we did a lot of things to raise money.
We've put on community events.
We did garage sales and we did chili cook-offs.
The books on the Sedalia ladies have been a great fundraiser for us. We've been doing ghost walks for 9 years as well.
Carter Lord, who is now the deputy coroner, donated $201, and the $1 was to cover the sale of the house.
Then we figured out that we were approaching some of the grants wrong. We kept saying we don't have any expenses, and they all wanted to know our itemized expenses. So we sat down and we put together a proposed budget, and after that the grant making started to go a lot more smoothly. we got a nice grant from El Pomar Foundation, and IREA has been very supportive.
Had we known from the very beginning that it was going to be $120,000 instead of 40 or 45, we might have thought differently about it. But once you're into it, you just can't stop.
You know, we were very naive on what it was going to take to restore the building, and we thought it would be low budget, and we'd have this wonderful two-story Victorian cottage, and we loved the history of Mary Bryant.
Mary Ann Bryant was married to Willis Bryant, and Willis Bryant had bought one of the early homesteads on Rio Grande Avenue and had a ranch there. They called it Glen Ivy. He built a beautiful barn on the property and a huge brick home, and it was very elegant. They were sort of movers and shakers in big old Sedalia. And after his death, Mary Ann built a smaller house. There's some discrepancy about exactly what date it was built. We have documents that show a house 18 by 24 feet, which is the size of this cottage, was built in 1898. On the other hand, people who've lived in the town for quite a while believe that there is a different house that was the first house built. At any rate, Mary Ann lived here for many years after Willis died. While she lived alone, her hired man brought her meals. They had a summer kitchen, as Southern people used to do, that was separate from her cottage, and he cooked meals and brought them to her. About 1912, Mary Ann had him arrested for forgery. He had forged a $40 check, and she had him arrested and put in jail. So when we were looking through the clippings, it was really quite amusing to find that in 1934, she and William Wells, the hired man, eloped. We were lucky enough to get the Gates Foundation to support us with moving the house.
Rocky Mountain House Movers are the ones who moved the building, and they did a beautiful job. And it cost us $18,000 to move the house. But the moving actually only took about an hour and 20 minutes to move the house that mile.
We said, well, all we have to do is fix it up. Of course, anybody who's done a remodel knows you really don't know what you're in for until you get in there and take off the walls or drill holes.
The rats and the mice had had their way with it for about 12 years, and it was really bad.
Replace the inside, replace the outside, replace the top.
The first thing we did after we got it here was we got a new roof on it and got it painted. So at least it looked like it wasn't a sore eye for the community. We had to tear it back to the studs. It wasn't insulated, we had to get it all insulated. This floor was really, really old floor, and it only went so far. One of the other ladies found a guy that did wood floors, and he saved for a year all the small pieces, end pieces of different people's jobs, and saved them for us. We tried to use as many people from the Sedalia area as we could.
All the work done was done by people who drive by here every day and really have an ownership in the building.
And a lot of them said, we won't charge as much, or some people did it for free. But once they started working here, they got hooked into it. They got hooked into the museum, they got hooked into the house. I think it's Mary Bryant. I think she likes her new house. And she was going to make sure they did the work right. Well, a lot of the work couldn't be done straight through because we didn't have the money. We had to wait for grants, or we had to raise some funds. We were using people that couldn't, they were working on other things too. They couldn't just put all of their time on here. So we, you know, it was sort of start and stop and start and stop. And
it took 2 years for us to get all the paperwork and all the legal done and the basement poured and the house moved. Then it took 2 years for the restoration. And it'll change the view of Sedalia forever. Every time you come into Sedalia, you see a building that wasn't here before.
A lady remarkable for her devotion to the Sedalia community, her hard work, and her refusal to take no for an answer in pursuit of her dreams. She showed us that a ragtag bunch of little old ladies could accomplish pretty much anything. Thank you, Barbara Machan, for taking us along on the ride of our lives.
Sedalia clearly has its entire hands on Douglas County, and we are proud to give you a handshake and be partners forever with this community. Congratulations.
Thank you, Steve. It's time to open.
All right.
Today is the grand opening of the Sedalia Firehouse Museum.
So today I'm Mary Ann,
Today is our grand opening. It's also our grand closing. I mean,
and I'm welcoming all of these people to my restored home.
we have doll houses today. Sometimes we have tools. We've had antique lace exhibits. We have one collection of Bertha Manhart's scrapbooks. She kept scrapbooks from 1898 to 1930 of all the little social notes in the paper. Whose dog got caught in the barbed wire fence? Who went to visit her sister in Denver? And we copied all of those and arranged them by family name. So we have stacks of binders so you can look up a family and see all the different things that happened that got into the paper.
We've done this historic ghost walk as part of the museum's fundraising for several years. So when we brought the house, people were kidding me and saying, well, is it haunted? And I said, I don't know. I haven't heard a thing about it. Since that time, we've had 4 people who used to live in the house. It was a rental for many years. 4 people have come forward and said, have you seen the ghost?
I haven't seen Mary Ann here, but I understand that she wanders around occasionally.
I think this is her new house and she likes it.
And since she loved gardening so much, we hope that now that she's here where we're going to entertain and is in the middle of the beautiful gardens, that she'll be very happy.
The Plant Select program consists of Colorado State University, Denver Botanical Gardens, and representatives from the green industry, which are nurseries and tree farms in the Colorado area. They get together and choose 4 or 5 new plants every year that they reintroduce or introduce to the community. We're one of the demonstration gardens, which means that we get new plants from them every year. We plant them here the middle of June. Then we give them feedback on how they do. It's great for us because we get free new plants every year.
The move and the renovation are over, but we've got to catalog our collections. We've got to sort things out in the basement.
We're anxious now to get reorganized in our new quarters and look at some new programs that we can do.
We've had such fabulous support from the community that we want to be sure to be able to involve the community and give back to the community. We hope to have a small lending library, primarily trashy novels.
We'd like to open the building more to the community for small group meetings or possibly parties or teas.
We want to have a lending library of resources on gardening and decorating and historical restoration and that kind of thing.
We have a nice research room upstairs if people want to do research on Sedalia history.
Maybe some art exhibits from local artists. We just want to really reach out into the community and be a central part of Sedalia.
It's an amazing community.
We're going to have a membership drive and try to get more volunteers to join us and help us out with some of these activities and possibly even be open more hours a week.
We can do a lot with this building.
If somebody did want to get hold of us to volunteer or find out more information or make a donation, they could call us at 720-254-6738. Once it's moved, it's lost its value, and I think probably the renovations that we've done have taken it out of the category of an actual bona fide historic place. But I think we've transformed it into something that's even more valuable to the community, and that's something that can be used, enjoyed.
Over the last 2 years, we've really been working with the townspeople to find ways to help them get done what they want to get done so that they can make their town a strong and prosperous place.
I met so many wonderful people working on this. IREA, Ron Smith, every time I'd get discouraged, he'd say, don't give up. The USDA Rural Development, I had a gentleman there, and every time I talked to him, he'd say, do you know how amazing it is that 12 women would take on a project like this for a community of 224 people? And every time I'd get discouraged, somebody boosted me up. And Steve Boland, the county commissioner, he was terrific. He knew what the next step needed to be. And whenever we'd get bogged down, he'd say, now these are the people you need to talk to.
I was very much a skeptic in the beginning about the possibility of getting this done with such a small group and such limited funds. But I can't tell you what an empowering experience it's been.
Don't ever tell little old women that they can't do something. They've been doing things all their lives. Being old doesn't preclude that they can't do something.
We figure we can do just about anything now.